So you think you have a spiritual hitchhiker. Now this is possible, but let's run through some things before we get into that. And it's one of the most common things that people come to me for, and it's become something that I almost specialize in. Usually this happens after some sort of ritual where either they were going because they thought it would be fun, they were going because they thought, I could use a little bit of a spiritual boost, or they were going to fix something. They were there to fix a problem they already had, and things get worse after it. It doesn't end up being what they thought. Now, I'm not here to negate any other modalities. Again, there's too many to list, but one of the things that any modality needs to do is protection. Now, before we get into all that, though, what I usually say when it comes to anybody, and they're talking about spiritual hitchhiker, I always stress the practical before the spiritual. The practical before the spiritual is all about looking at what social environment you're in, or what if you're going through any kind of extreme difficulties, or then on top of that, then we have any kind of major medical issues or any major mental health issues. Because having a spiritual hitchhiker can feel a lot like any one of those things. So if you have a difficult home life, let's be honest, with like a lot of domestic violence or something like that, no, you don't have a spiritual hitchhiker. You've got difficulties at home. If you have extreme financial difficulties, that can cause a myriad of problems in your life. No, you don't necessarily have a spiritual hitchhiker. You probably have some financial difficulties. And same with medical issues or mental health issues, because they can all have such severe impacts on your life that it can feel like you have a spiritual hitchhiker. But usually when you got a hitchhiker, it usually comes on pretty suddenly. It's usually caused by another event, but it's just the things that happen are usually either complete 180s to who you normally are, or it introduces things like nightmares that you just wouldn't normally have, or completely odd, random things, extreme things that don't normally happen in your life. Now, so what's behind, or what is a spiritual hitchhiker? Now, it comes down to a few things. It's energies, entities, spirits, and sometimes even demons. Yes, I say this here in the light of day. These things can and do happen. You've all heard of the Catholic Church doing deliverance ministries. They've been doing it for years, but it's something that even they, these days, don't even like to admit that they do. Negative energies, negative entities, negative spirits, negative demons. What is an energy? An energy is basically just that, energy. It can be a thought form. It also can be, believe it or not, your ego. The ego is part of the etheric body. It's a type of energy that we put out, but we've all felt energies as we walk into the room. So if you ever walk into a big conference meeting or something like that, and there's somebody standing over in the opposite corner, and you're just like, ooh, I don't like the vibe that person is putting off. That is negative energy. And they it follows them around like a cloud. Well, in the spiritual realm, essentially, there are wafts of, if you think, energetic clouds wisping around. And they usually come in the form of what are called thought forms. So this brings up the age-old saying by Lao Tzu, where he says, be careful what you feel because they become your thoughts, and be careful what you think because they become your actions. Thought forms and emotions and whatnot are fields of magnetic energy of a type. And they kind of follow everybody around. And you've also probably by now heard of the law of attraction. So if you're kind of in a what they say a low vibration state, you will attract other low vibration energies. Then we get to entities. Entities are a little bit more formed on the spiritual plane than energies. And what entities are basically conscious beings that have never had a material life. And that is one of the things. So because they have never had a material life, they would like to have a material life, and so they attach to someone, or you in this case. And they do have a consciousness or a semi-consciousness. They kind of know what they're doing, and there's a bit of an agenda, and the agenda is usually to get something in the physical realm that they usually can't themselves. And then we have spirits, which spirits are fully conscious beings that are disembodied. As we disembark this mortal coil, we become spirits. And spirits, of course, are, positive, negative, neutral, the whole thing. They will have, again, because they're conscious, they will have their own agendas. And then, of course, there are demons. And demons are conscious, of course, but very malevolent and will take any chance they get in order to attach themselves to your life, enter into your life, and whatnot. Now, the most important thing, though, is the ego, because as I said before, the ego is a type of energy that we all automatically create. And usually, if you stick around long enough, watch any of my videos, I talk about ego all the time. There's plenty of other practitioners that talk about ego as well, and it's very, very important. But if you feel like you have a negative, if you feel like you have a spiritual hitchhiker, the way that they attach to you is usually because of some negative energy that your ego is putting out somewhere along the lines, which is why shadow work and kind of what's called spiritual hygiene is so important. So after this, once you kind of recognize, okay, I don't have any mental health issues, I don't have any medical issues, I'm not in a extreme bad social environment, and my finances are okay, then we get into, okay, maybe I do have a spiritual hitchhiker. I went to see somebody the other week, and ever since then I've been having these crazy heinous nightmares and thinking these crazy wicked thoughts about myself, etc., etc. So the first thing to do is stay active. Spirituality is an action word, I like to say. The thing that negativity hates, it hates any kind of form. So if you stay disciplined in things, so if you get up and you go to the gym every day, stay getting up and going to the gym. If you, making your bed every day, or whatnot, making dinner on time at a specific time to feed your family every day, going to work, showing up on time. Negative energy hates that kind of stuff and will try and create a more chaotic environment in your life, which, again, chaos is a kind of sudden chaos. This is kind of a hallmark of a spiritual hitchhiker. So anything you can do to battle that is great. After that, you want to get into, start focusing on awareness. You don't necessarily have to meditate. I think that's a bit of a misnomer, to be honest. I meditate a lot, don't get me wrong, but you don't have to. The point of meditation is observation of the self. That's what people don't realize. Meditation is just a training tool for observation of the self. So you can understand your own emotional patterns. You can understand why you do things when you do them. And what this does, by you realizing who you are and why you're doing things, and you're able to observe things as you're doing them, you're starting to maintain your own space, which is the second thing that negative hitchhikers hate. They can't stand it because you're starting to vibe at a different frequency, and they can't handle that, and they're just, I'm out, peace, which is what you want. Other than that, if you're going to get involved in any rituals, Whether, as you know, I read tarot for loads of people. But if you're going to get involved in any rituals, whether it's tarot, whether it's, any kind of Solomonic ritual or anything to do with Wicca, I don't practice Wicca. I don't know much about it. But every modality should and probably does, for the serious practitioners, have some sort of protective ritual at the beginning, which is basically comes down to making this space my own. And it's all about setting an intention. And different people set their intentions in different ways. I had problems for years when I was young. To be honest, I did have a lot of disembodied spirits that would visit me, and I had a hard time making sure that they would leave me alone. And it wasn't until somebody not too long ago, actually, I guess it has been a while now, but it wasn't until somebody taught me spiritual protection that they just went away. And it's basically sometimes as simple as saying, "Oi, this is my space, you shall not pass." So always practice what's called your spiritual hygiene. Some people are into crystals, some people are into talismans, and just straight up affirmations. You could think of an intention as an affirmation if you really wanted to. And then there are what are called cleansing rituals. So this is the ever famous LBRP, the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram. This is something that I do all the time. The middle pillar exercise. Then there's grounding exercises. Salt baths. Some people do salt baths. I'm not into that, but it works. It works for a lot of people. Sometimes it can be something as simple as grounding, going out and, walking in the grass every morning or whenever you need to. Then there's the whole grounding technique through meditation that people do. All these things are methods of protection. So if you picked up a hitchhiker, usually when I start talking to people, it's because, when I interview them, it's because the practitioner they went to see didn't use any form of protection. And what that does is you end up kind of going into the whole thing in a naive sort of way, and it just, you emanate in your own energetic field that, oh, I'm open, and I'm open to anything. And that's not true. You don't want to be open to anything. You want to be open to the things that you want to be open to, because we all have goals. We all have, if you think of a goal, that's being focused on a specific outcome in a way that it kind of pushes aside everything that isn't that outcome. In a way, focusing on a goal is a type of spiritual protection. Now, I have written an article on my website, tarotpathwork.com, top 5 symptoms of when you might have a spiritual hitchhiker. So go check that out. Other than that, until next time.